Hello, everybody. Today is June 18th, and this is the Pipeline Podcast. It is Wednesday, and this is episode 8. This episode is going to be like a longer form episode, probably around an hour-ish. We have 4 to 5 stories that we want to talk about. So get very excited. It's going to be nice. We have like juicy Epstein updates that we're going to start with. That's going to be fun. So here's the source here. Exclusive. Virginia Giuffre's Deadman switch released. I have been murdered. This is the real Epstein list. And this is the lady that got like hit by a bus earlier this year. She didn't die, she survived, but the bus was going like 40 miles an hour or something, and people were saying like that's Epstein people trying to kill her because she's a victim of Epstein. She survives getting hit by the bus, then she's in the hospital making some weird crazy like TikTok posts saying her kidneys are shutting down and she's gonna die, and then she doesn't die from that, and I think she commits suicide or something.
And then I'm pretty sure they also said that no, she actually died from the crash.
Yeah, but she lived. I think they were trying to kill her.
I think there's purposely a lot of confusion, and it's very opaque, not very transparent.
Yeah, not at all. She got hit by a bus, her kidneys were failing, and she said she was gonna die from that, and then she commits suicide. Crazy story. Anyway, yesterday her Deadman switch was released, so we have a video. I only listened to like the first minute of it. It was like, okay, this sounds spicy. So I'll listen to it together so we can like just give our like honest reactions and kind of go over it.
And basically that means Deadman switches. She had some program like on her computer or something where this video footage or any other files would be released if she didn't come input like a password or something within a certain period of time, which you'll hear her mention in the beginning.
If you're watching this, it means they got me. My Deadman switch activated automatically after I missed 2 scheduled check-ins. I had it set up months ago because I knew this day was coming. I did not die by accident. I was murdered to keep their secrets buried. My name is Virginia Louise Giuffre. I was one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. I survived Little St. James, but survival came at a price. I saw too much, knew too much, and now they've silenced me. But it's too late for them. They thought killing me would bury their secrets, but this video is going to a few organizations I trust, ones that have been exposing the truth for decades. You know who you are. It's your job to continue this fight. I was 16 when they reeled me in. I worked at Mar-a-Lago, folding towels, cleaning lockers. My father kept the tennis courts immaculate. We were just working folks trying to scrape by. Trump, he was around, but he was never the threat. The real predator was Ghislaine Maxwell, prim and proper, smiling, promising to teach me massage therapy at the Pink Mansion in Palm Beach. I had no idea I was being fed into a nightmare machine. Epstein's Island was hell disguised as paradise. You've heard some names linked to him, but those are just the sacrificial pawns. The real players, the ones they've protected at all costs, are still hiding in plain sight. I'll name 2 now. The first, a former U.S. president, Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Publicly, he's revered. Privately, he was one of the worst. He wasn't there for the girls. He was there for the island boys.
Hell
Young
yeah.
boys, trafficked and groomed. I saw him more times than I can count, always without his Secret Service detail, sometimes with his Hollywood friends, George Clooney and Tom Hanks. I still have nightmares about them, arrogant and drunk on power, slinking into the cabanas with kids barely out of childhood. The second, Bill Gates, the billionaire philanthropist,
yes,
loved by the media, hailed as a savior. We called him the benefactor, and we used to dread seeing him naked. But he didn't come to party. He came to experiment. Genetic experiments, human experiments. I saw him inject a young girl with something they said was a genetic enhancement. She was younger than me, strapped to a table, terrified, treated like a lab rat while they muttered about seeding the future of the species. These men think they are gods, playing with life like it was theirs to own. I'm telling you,
and then they drink the adrenochrome.
Epstein isn't dead. They staged his death because he was too valuable. He held blackmail on some of the most powerful people on Earth. Files, videos, confessions. They couldn't risk him talking, but they also couldn't risk him gone, so they hid him. stashed him under the protection of the same elite who once paid him to supply them with flesh. And they thought killing me would stop this from coming out. They were wrong, and there is so much more to come. Hidden servers, encrypted drives, witness testimonies. It's all going to hit the light. This video is just the first detonation. The data drops are timed and automatic. They are going to people who can make a difference, and nobody can stop it now. Not even the law enforcement agencies in the US and UK, the same ones that buried the evidence I handed them, can stop this truth from getting out. If you're watching this, you are the resistance. Don't let my death be just another headline. Burn their lies to the ground. Make the world see the monsters behind the masks. And to any survivors out there, don't give up. We're in this together. They can't kill us all. Make them pay.
Oh my God, that was crazy. That
something
video?
Something woman scorned, eh?
Yeah, I don't even know. So yeah, we got 3. If this video is true, we got 3 updates. Obama is gay, and he's implicated with Epstein. So is Bill Gates, and Bill Gates does human experiments on these.
So that's where it kind of jumps the shark for me. I don't know about the human experiment.
Yeah,
part.
I don't know about it either. And we also have the claim that Epstein is not dead. So three big claims. If they're all true, that's 3 big updates on Epstein. But yeah, I want to talk about Obama being gay, because this is a theory that I've covered before. There is some circumstantial evidence before this video that Obama is gay, just because of how his personal chef died at Obama's home, drowned in the water. We covered this in another episode. And the conspiracy theory behind it is they were gay lovers that got in a fight. And so I love to hear more Obama's gay conspiracy stuff pop up again. That's very juicy to me. And then Bill Gates, yeah, I don't really know. I mean, there's always fun conspiracy stuff with Bill Gates. We've gone over him, but not really him being implemented with Epstein.
Yeah, he is implicated on Epstein Island. He was very good friends with Epstein. There's actually an interview with him talking about how he was friends with Epstein and how he had been on his plane multiple times.
Okay, just like Trump.
Even after his conviction. Well, Trump kind of moved away from him after he was convicted back in 2009, 2010.
But Bill Gates didn't.
But Bill Gates didn't. Same thing
he's
with
dead now, so that's
Prince
what he
Charles.
said.
Yes, and that's exactly what Bill Gates said when he was asked about it. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's weird. I guess if you do want to do crazy human experiments, that he used Epstein to traffic people so he can do crazy experiments on them. Who knows? I love that though. Hope it's true.
There's many people who think that he is still alive and that he may or may not have had dirt on some other people, and that's why they didn't just kill him or why they helped him get out.
Yeah, I love that. And there's people that think he's dead. There's people that think he was murdered, or there's people that think it was a suicide, and there's people that think he's alive. There's everything. It also sounds if this video is real, she also sent more files to trusted sources, media sources. So maybe more stuff about her little Deadman switch will come out. We'll have to wait and see about that. But I think that's really all that's really all the updates we have for Epstein, unless you want to add something.
No, that's all for now. Hopefully there'll be more information coming out over the next few days here, and we'll be sure to cover it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully there is. Because any Epstein update, we will be covering, as long as it's got enough information like this. This was great. So let's check out our next story today. The title, U.S. says it has arrested another Chinese researcher accused of smuggling biological material. So yeah, this kind of topic, we really just want to talk about how there are bad actors in China that do actually want to harm the United States as a country, and this might be an example of it. So we're going to kind of take a look at this article. It's the second such case in a week involving the University of Michigan. So it happened at the University of Michigan. U.S. authorities said Monday that they had arrested a Chinese researcher accused of smuggling biological material into the country. The second such case in days. So this wasn't this Monday, this was last Monday. on the 9th, so a little over a week ago. The FBI said in a criminal complaint that the researcher, a Chinese doctoral student at a college of life science and technology in Wuhan, was arrested Sunday at the airport in Detroit.
And so there was the woman who was actually at UofM in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, and then there was her husband or boyfriend who was also working on the same type of studies over in China. And so he was supposed to he was working with her to bring over the fungi or whatever it is that was supposed to be eco-terrorism. He was complicit in helping her try to smuggle the fungi in through DTW.
Yeah, they're like coordinated, and it goes all the way back to Wuhan, where fucking COVID came from.
And so this is very obviously China is still trying to do something, whether it's at the behest of the United States. We are still in some kind of geopolitical war with China. And so this is just there's been studies shown that Chinese have infiltrated America at all levels of its government. Whether that's true or not, this is just proof that there's probably some espionage going on with China.
Yeah, the government, and in this case, like the universities, like the institutions. And we also have heard, in like technology, like there might be a Chinese backdoor to like every router in like on military bases and stuff.
Well, there was just like you said, there was actually something released recently where there was some way to kill windmills or something like that, or kill alternate sources of power that we were getting made from China, and there was a kill switch in there which could cut off our energy.
Yeah, and I think there was like a Chinese tech company that got banned from like taking government contracts, and I think it was like North Dakota or one of those states, because it just coincidentally turned out that like around all of these military bases there was a bunch of like Chinese tech equipment that they were installing, and the government was kind of like, that could be like a conflict of interest, because if it's Chinese developed, it basically means the CCP can just tell the company like, hey, give us all your info that you're collecting from there, and these Chinese companies can't really stop the government from doing that.
And that's why I think all of this, saber rattling with Russia is ridiculous. Russia is a weaker country than us. They are not our number one geopolitical enemy. It is China.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In almost like all aspects, like in GDP and like technology, like Russia is kind of far behind. And we saw that when they invaded Ukraine, and a lot of their like military equipment was just like barely functional.
Well, to an extent.
To an extent, yeah.
The other thing could be is that Russia's just getting rid of all of its old gen tech.
Yeah, I feel like they would have brought their good stuff out by now. But it is
Russia's...
To them, it's not a very big war. That's what they have. Same with China, Russia and China.
It'll be very interesting to see how Russia and China continue to interact, even though they are in a BRICS alliance.
Yeah, it seems like they get along for the most part, because I feel like they have a common enemy. Like, it could be the U.S. They both kind of hate on us. There was another similar topic I wanted to go over. So it's like a different instance. It's Chinese man in U.S. pleads guilty to exporting guns, ammo to North Korea. This is just one example. So this happened in California. Like North Korea like funded him. He was living illegally in the U.S. and he was exporting ammunition and other military items to North Korea. And he was funded by North Korea. So like North Korea is trying to like get weapons and stuff from us, and they're like paying Chinese people to do it. It's just another example that like some of these Chinese immigrants like do have ulterior motives like this. Like he's like shipping ammunition and stuff to North Korea. It's just another example. There's a lot of examples of this kind of stuff.
But let's not just be naive and not think that the United States isn't doing something similar to China or Russia or whoever.
Yeah, maybe. But like that's another thing is like how are you gonna sneak into Russia, go buy guns as an American and ship them out of Russia? That country would probably catch you doing that so fast. But here it's kind of like okay, like Chinese guys trying to buy some ammunition, you're kind of just allowed to do that. But this is
I
what he
think the
did.
way that our alphabet agencies operate might be slightly different. They will allow these things to happen until they're able to catch or expose people like red-handed, or even get more information, or infiltrate the operation themselves. That's what
Yeah.
our intelligence agencies do.
Yeah, that's true. So this is what he did. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. He bought a firearms business in Texas. Keep in mind, like, he was living here illegally, so I don't even know how he ended up buying a business, which is kind of crazy to me. He used false paperwork is what he did to conceal the contents of his shipping containers. So yeah, he like bought a firearms business in Texas, and then he was shipping stuff back to North Korea, and he was funded by North Korea. About 60,000 rounds of ammunition.
In the grand scheme of things, that's not going to do that much.
No,
But it is crazy that it was allowed to happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is one guy that got caught. I mean, if it's just one guy that can do 60,000 and you have like 100 of these similar schemes going on, it could add up to a lot, especially over time if it goes unnoticed. Yeah, it's crazy though that he would even admit that like North Korea is the one like funding him to do it. Yeah, it looks like he got 30 years in jail for it, and that's kind of the end of it. If we get any other like juicy Chinese spy stories, we'll probably cover them. That's all we're going to go over today. So let's check out our next source. Oh, this is a fun one. Protesters in Europe march against over-tourism, target tourists with water guns. Meanwhile, over here in the United States, we have like people protesting against ICE, and like we have like pro-illegal immigrant protests. This is what they're doing in Europe right now. This is the Europe Hot Boy Summer protest, is over tourism. They don't like their tourists, and they don't like people that come to visit and support their economy. So it's actually really fun.
Now, I can understand there are a few reasons, legitimate reasons. One of the biggest issues is the housing. All these Airbnbs or Verbos are taking up housing for this generation of people trying to buy houses. And these countries have a much lower GDP and national wage or average wages for people. So it is a little bit different. Additionally, tourists can definitely disrespect cultures, customs, cause pollution, littering, things like that, which can also be a blight on the city, town, country, wherever they're visiting.
Yeah, so it says here the protesters are urging for a radical decrease in tourist numbers and a shift towards alternative economic models that prioritize residents' well-being over tourism revenue. So yeah, it sounds like it's not like just all the people hate on the tourists, but they are kind of mad at the way the system leans towards helping out these tourists and promoting tourism, because that is where like a city's going to get a lot of its revenue. And so the citizens are just kind of like, hey, like take care of us first, which is a good argument, because even in like New York, they kind of cracked down on Airbnbs because it was making it harder for like people to find like a rentable apartment to live in, because a lot of the apartment units, like say a landlord has like 10 units, what they were doing is they were just having like 2 be like Airbnbs just to kind of diversify. But then over time, what happens is like 10 to 20% of the apartment rental market is just gone. And so all these people that are trying to live in the city are having a hard time finding an apartment. And that's kind of what's going on here, but it hasn't been dealt with by the European government. And we could talk about why they haven't done anything about it all day, but it really just comes down to money. So that's kind of what's going on here, and they're protesting it.
And so that's the biggest thing, is that they need to be protesting these landlords in quotation marks. I say that ironically, but you either need to have some sort of regulation where people can't just buy up all of the housing, especially these people who have had large amounts of money,
Yeah.
or you either need to cut some regulations to allow for more housing to go up. And I'm talking about zoning things more than, regulation for building codes. But by potentially changing some of those things and more development being able to come in and build more affordable housing, you could see a lot of these issues potentially,
build
diminish.
more houses. Yeah, that's a solution as well. Here kind of just points out like that how slow like the European government is to even react to this. So Barcelona's city government had earlier announced a ban on short-term apartment rentals, that's Airbnb, to tourists by 2028. So it's like they're saying, okay, people are protesting, we have a problem, we'll fix it by 2028. That doesn't solve anything right now. So all these protesters got to wait like 3 years just for the government to do something, which is kind of ridiculous. And Spain's government recently ordered Airbnb to remove 66,000 listings that violated regulations. So there you go. That's a good start. That I feel like is probably the biggest issue, is just people want like a lower housing cost, and the tourists probably do drive that up because of all these Airbnbs.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. All over the world, inflation has gone up. Things have gone up. The prices have increased. It's just as hard in these other European nations to purchase homes for younger generation without, some form of help or.
And I'm sure, like in a city like
assistance.
Barcelona, like it's even harder too. A very touristy city. Spain had 94 million international visitors last year. It's a huge number, and a number that locals say is no longer sustainable.
And that could be true, but if we want to have this large part of the economy, which is tourism, then they need to change the rules and regulations, and potentially, even the government should have to step in and change different zonings or build up different types of housing to accommodate either tourism or the actual native population.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of think landlords aren't going to change anything. Airbnb is not going to change anything. If you want to protest, like, you really shouldn't protest against the tourists, protest against the government that isn't keeping your interest at heart. They're kind of being slow to do something about this.
Or care more about the tourism dollars than they do about their own citizens.
Exactly. I'm sure the government loves the tourism dollars. So, I mean, you could just shoot tourists with water guns, get them not to come to your city. That might work. But that's not really like the heart of the issue. The heart of the issue is greed and government that's slow to act. That's kind of my take on it.
What a hot take. Haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, it's not really a hot take. Oh, also I want to point out how peaceful these protests were. There was no looting, and there was no Molotovs thrown at police. That's pretty cool. And they didn't go up to any tourists and rip their I Heart Spain t-shirts off. Very peaceful. I want to say, like, great job. Maybe we could all learn a thing or two from these European protesters about how to properly protest. So I just wanted to talk about that. Our next source here, 1 million illegal immigrants self-deport under Trump. This goes back to like Trump doing all the deportations. And I think it was Tom Hooman that was like, we're offering like everyone the option to just self-deport now so we don't have to come find you. So we'll kind of dive into this article a little bit. Well, let's show the quick read, the AI summary. That might be too quick of a read. Donald Trump's administration has prioritized immigration enforcement and deportations. So yeah, this has been going on since Trump got back in office. Just in case you haven't heard about that. A 2-track plan targets criminal arrests while promoting self-deportation among immigrants. So I do want to go over that, how they're promoting the self-deportation, because I do believe they're offering these migrants that self-deport like incentives, and I think that's important to cover. And estimates show 700,000 to 1 million have left the U.S. workforce. I don't know if that means that they've self-deported, but I guess let's look.
I just wish there were incentives for being a U.S. citizen. What about that?
Yeah, what about that? That would be great.
Well, if you reach 60-something, you might be able to retire.
Oh, maybe. Okay, so this article's saying that it has led to increased wages for remaining workers in the country.
And I mean, honestly, that's one of the ultimate cruxes of the immigration argument, is just that it's causing American workers to have to compete with people who are willing to work for less than minimum wage, which is the biggest issue with immigration. It's not even about, the American aren't going to work those jobs. It's that American companies don't want to pay those people actual wages. Because no one's going to work having to do a shitty job for less than $7.25 an hour.
Yeah.
But people from worse conditions in poorer countries will definitely do that.
Yeah, because it still might be better than what they could get in their home country. It says average hourly wages accelerated, rising by 0.4% over the month of May. And earnings can beat inflation and a boost to workers' spending power. So it's claiming that people are starting to make more money in this country.
And it's not even just inflation based. It's just that they have more spending power.
Yeah, their wages increased by 0.4%. Yeah, that's what it is. So they're just getting more money. And if that like no tax on tips and overtime gets passed, this will go up even more.
Well, let's not talk about the big beautiful bill,
who knows
it's not big or it's big, but it's not beautiful. That's for sure.
It's not.
It's an extra helping of fuck you to the American public.
JD Vance was the other day was calling it not beautiful but good. He was like, it's good, but it's not beautiful.
And the question you need to ask is good for whom?
Right, yeah, I haven't even really looked at the bill. It's too big for me.
Now, the last Trump tax cut we got back in his first presidency showed an average about 15 to 17% increase in wages or money in their pocket for the average American wages, like 30,000 to like 70,000. This one is not the same.
Yeah, so we'll definitely cover that. I wanted to kind of wait on really going deep into the big beautiful bill until it's more finalized, because I imagine before it gets passed a lot of things will change on it. We'll have to see about that, but I have brought it up a few times before. Let's see if the article, it doesn't really have anything else, but I also just wanted to talk about why these people are self-deporting. I've heard claims that like self-deport now, and one reason would be like because if you get deported like by ICE, you're probably not going to be able to come back to the country legally. But they've said, like, if you do go through this process to self-deport, like, you'll still be able to come here legally. You just got to go back to your home country and do it there. And so it is actually a good idea to self-deport. And a lot of Americans would support it because it does save money. We don't have to spend taxpayer money on ICE to, like, find these people to deport them, because that stuff is really expensive. And it could even go back to like the people that are in the country illegally might not be paying taxes. They might not be getting taxed on their paychecks if they're getting paid under the table. To fund this, to actually deport these people, it just comes at a cost to like people who actually do things properly, come into the country legally, and to like citizens that are here that pay taxes. So there is a good reason for people to actually self-deport, and it might be safe if you're here illegally. And also if you're here illegally, there's like the whole argument, like you're going to get taken advantage of, whether people mean to or not. But just the fact that you can get paid less than like minimum wage, it just puts you in a position to where it's hard to really get out of that, become legal, and to be not like getting paid like shit money, and it really limits what you can do in the country. And it looks like if you're here legally, you're not going to be able to stay in the country and claim asylum. Really, maybe self-deporting is a good idea. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Or I mean, I know that this is easy coming from an American who was born here, but maybe instead you work on making your country a better place.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
maybe you try to work together and beat out the cartels and make your country a better place for your people.
That's definitely my take on it. I mean, have a little pride in where you're from. And we've seen examples of that with
well, we see people in America wave their Mexican flags with pride saying Viva la Mexico, but they don't
flood their country.
Right, and it's like, hey man, I believe that you should definitely, care about your culture and heritage and all of that. But if that's really the case, why don't you want to go build up Mexico to be great again? Right?
It is
like,
hard
why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah, it's hard to make the case that Mexico's great when you're when you fled that country to a different country and you're making that case. And we've seen examples of El Salvador and Argentina, of like these countries that were having a lot of people like leave their countries, like kind of start making a comeback and like getting their country under control and like creating like a more functional government. So it is possible. There are examples of that happening. So here I pulled up, this is the current administration's immigration policies for self-deporting. So these are the incentives that you get if you self-deport. Financial stipend, it's a common incentive, and it's a $1,000 exit bonus to help cover the cost of returning home. So like they'll give you $1,000. They'll also give you travel assistance. So it says costs for your travel, like a plane or bus ticket, forgiveness of fines. So if you have civil fines, they will forgive all of your fines that you have. Deprioritization for enforcement actions. If you register your intent to depart voluntarily, you may be
ICE is gonna come pick you up.
Yeah, there's not gonna be any surprises because you're doing it properly. They're not just gonna come randomly and pick you up. Yeah, exactly. And then here's the major one that you're not going to get if you don't self-deport. Potential for future reentry. So it's not guaranteed. Participation in some voluntary departure programs may improve the likelihood of being able to legally re-enter the U.S. in the future. It's a complex legal issue, and seeking legal counsel is highly recommended to understand these implications. So I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you one thing, that you're way more likely to be able to come to the country legally if you self-deport rather than get captured by ICE and get deported. So that's kind of my take on it. But yeah, like there are incentives to self-deport. I kind of just wanted to talk about that. And like these people, people are taking up the government's offer here.
I'm sure it costs less money than actually having to go remove a bunch of people by force.
Yeah,
but still, it is always a slap in the face to the average American, who many of which are struggling to make ends meet and living paycheck to paycheck, to just give out free money to people who committed a crime. You know,
right? Yeah. Hey, can you cross into our country illegally? If you don't get caught, we'll give you $1,000. It's like one of those bug finders fees on like a website that's like, do you see a bug? Like a bug bounty?
Well, then compare that with, a year ago they were talking about giving immigrants cell phones and housing and a couple $100 to $1,000 on a prepaid card in New York.
Yeah, they do that.
So
in New York,
you get incentives for coming in, and then you get an incentive for leaving. So hey, why don't we just stop at America real quick? Stop at the ATM and get some money.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything this summer.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. But I mean, in order to have a social safety net or these things that we can provide to our most vulnerable and lowest people in our country, you kind of need to have a border. You can't have people coming in and out and doing this thing, or else it's just going to create more costs for the government.
See, that's like, that also goes to like, you also need to maybe reform like immigration policies, like all around, like keep the border safe, but also make it so people don't wait 17 years to get into the country legally. And definitely better vetting, in my opinion. So a lot of people that under like the Biden administration that were vetted in quotes, but really they just came here illegally and then claimed asylum, and like that was it. But they were criminals, like known criminals. So,
America.
Yeah, it's like, I kind of think that if you come here but you are like convicted or even like under investigation for a crime in a different country, maybe you shouldn't like be able to come here. I don't know.
Well, that's above my pay grade, I suppose.
Yeah, same for me, above my pay grade.
So, I mean, I guess there's anything else that happens on the border.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
And so this will be our last source here that I want to talk about. It's Kenya protests over blogger's death turn violent. The death of 31-year-old blogger and teacher Albert on June 8th came a year after more than 60 people were killed during protests last year. So basically the story here is there was protest in Kenya. The police, who aren't US police and don't have adequate training, freaked out and killed 60 protesters. And this happened in Kenya. So I kind of want to take a look at this article here. Just give me one sec. Police said that the blogger, originally they said he committed suicide, but there was an independent autopsy, and the autopsy found that it looked like he died from assault. So most likely the police killed him and said he suicided himself. So demonstrators took to the streets. Police fired tear gas. Clashes broke out when unidentified motorcyclists beat up protesters. That's kind of fun. The bikers were shouting, "No protests." And then, there was dozens of motorbikes with two hooded passengers whipping protesters and members of the public. The bikers have not been identified. It's interesting. But when did the 60 people die? That's what I want to talk about.
So the 60 people died a year
Last year.
before this guy died. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this guy was coming after like a year or like a year anniversary or something of the protest for like a tax increase where the police killed like 60 people.
Yeah, I want to go over that. That's what I want to talk about. Police officer arrested over shooting of civilian during Kenya protest. He might be the one that killed the
You
guy.
have killed him.
The man fell to the ground as people in the crowd shouted, "You have killed him."
That sounds like what an IDF soldier would do to a journalist right there.
Oh, yeah, we have good examples of that. That's happened a lot.
Couple times.
Yeah, more than once, and definitely purposely. It's not, all those cases aren't accidents. So yeah, a year after more than 60 people were killed during protests. Let me find an article on that. That's what I wanted to cover. Here's the source on it.
Looks like that was last year.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I wanted to go over, though. So this is last year, anti-government protests. 60 people died. So how did they die? Oh, so they're saying these masked men on motorcycles are like secret police. But who knows if that's true. This one claims it was only 39 people that were
this
killed.
Is probably like day of. Yeah. Police opened fire on protesters who stormed the Parliament complex and a fire broke out. Probably some got shot and then some got burned.
Yeah, and the reason this is important is because that's the kind of stuff that doesn't really happen in the United States, or at least didn't during the LA riots and the No King's Day protest. Like, this is kind of what you get in other countries.
I will say, I mean, one person did die in January 6th, but then in my home state of Michigan, our Capitol building was overrun by a bunch of like Michigan militia people. And fortunately, no one died there. No one was shot. No fire broke out. Yeah. Crazy.
On No King's Day, there was also a death in Salt Lake City because a security guard shot a protester on accident when he was trying to shoot like a would-be shooter. But yeah, it's true. There was deaths. Also, during the riots in LA, there was one death when one of the stores was looted. So like, people do die. But this is an example of police opening fire on protesters because of inadequate training or like funding or like equipment or like staffing for whatever reason. But it just shows like their government doesn't function well, and like because of that, protests can turn dangerous.
Or the government specifically wanted that to happen.
Yeah, or they don't care about their citizens.
Yeah, or that's how they respond to riots.
Yeah, like that's, try to have a No King's Day protest in China or Russia, and like see what happens. Because I bet they don't use rubber bullets like the police here. So yeah, I wish there was more information on this, but it is Kenya. I guess it's not going to get a whole lot of press compared to like different country. This kind of stuff is super interesting.
Isn't Kenya the country that brought the genocide claims against Israel in the UN?
No, I think that was South Africa. And South Africa is currently genociding their white farmers right now, so it's a little hypocritical.
Right, I was about to say, man, that's not very good government behavior for someone who's willing to run to the UN for that kind of thing. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that they did. They should have, but
they're just not the best person to bring it up.
Yeah, you think you'd pick someone a little bit better than that?
Yeah, I would. It's funny. We might go into that South Africa a little more. South Africa is very interesting because it's like a racist country, but it's predominantly like black people that are racist against whites. So it's such a unique instance. It's super fun. So yeah.
Well, honestly, most countries other than the United States are very racist towards people who aren't, their culture. So that's very common outside the United States, is people separating by culture.
Yeah, like try to go to grad school in China as a U.S. citizen. Like, see how easy it is to get accepted. You're going to get financial aid. Like, people don't do those kind of things for a reason. A lot of countries like aren't like the United States. where you can just come here to go to college and study. So that is all the sources we have today. I hope you liked the stories. What we're going to do is just summarize everything and then end the episode. So our first story, we had the Epstein update, which I'm so glad we covered this because I was about to start the episode and I hadn't even seen this. This is exactly the stuff that we want to talk about on the Pipeline podcast. So it's Virginia Giuffre's Deadman switch is released. So she died allegedly from suicide after she got hit by a bus going 40 miles an hour. And she claimed that that was a hit, someone trying to kill her. It wasn't an accident. And then she claims her kidneys are shutting down and she's going to die. And then she dies, but apparently it's suicide. And then this audio gets released and we don't really know if it's true, but we'll talk about the audio. So it claims that she has more information that she's releasing to trusted media sources, so more stuff might come out. It also claimed that Obama is gay and implicated with Epstein. I love that. I hope we get more stuff on that. We will cover it. The next thing was Bill Gates is also implicated in Epstein, which we kind of already knew, just we don't know the extent of it. But she claims that he did human experiments on these people that were trafficked. And then the last claim she makes is that Epstein is not dead, that they used like a fake body and said that he killed himself. But in reality, they like swapped him out and he's alive and he's hiding somewhere. So that's the Epstein update. Let's take a look at our next source. We kind of just talked about Chinese spies. So here, U.S. says it has arrested another Chinese researcher accused of smuggling biological material. This Chinese national is like a grad student at University of Michigan, and she put in some kind of toxic fungus like in between pages of a book and tried to sneak it into the country. And who knows what she was trying to do. I'm sure she claims she just wanted to study it. I think that was the claim. Like it was to study. It's hard to get the permits to like legally bring it in. So they just smuggled it in. But what it could be is another, maybe they're trying to start a new COVID. Like you don't even know because it is linked to the University of Science and Technology in Wuhan. Like, I think that's where all this stuff was sourced from. And that's where like COVID started.
The fungi was to destroy our agriculture, like our corn or
Yeah, is that what it is?
Meat, like other things. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was to destroy agriculture.
This isn't the only example we have of like Chinese nationals doing stuff like this. It's almost like sabotage, like they're trying to like sabotage the country. And so the other example that we just covered today, there are more examples. It was this Chinese guy who came into the country illegally. He was funded by North Korea to smuggle ammunition out of the United States into North Korea. So he got caught. He's facing like 30 years. He didn't end up shipping a lot of ammo, but if he remained uncaught, I mean, the numbers that he could have shipped is like a lot. So like this kind of stuff does happen. The other story, I thought this story is funny. Protesters in Europe march against over-tourism. So like that's the kind of stuff people protest for in Europe. They don't like their tourists, so they're shooting water guns at them. And we kind of just talked about how the European government kind of needs to do more things to like keep housing costs low, because the over-tourism is just like, it's really making it hard for like the people the locals in those cities to live, because things are just like costing more, specifically like housing. But also the protests were peaceful, so like that's always good to see. We talk about 1 million illegal immigrants self-deport under Trump. This article just links that to how wages in the month of May went up 0.4%. But what we really went over is the incentives that there are to self-deport rather than have ICE detain you and deport you. Because if you self-deport, there is actually a chance that you could come into the country legally again, as opposed to if you get deported by ICE. Also, they'll give you $1,000, which is funny because like it's like you broke the law and came here, but we'll pay you to leave. It's like a bug bounty. It's kind of funny. It's like, hey, if you can if you can get here, we'll give you $1,000 if you leave. That's something to be on the lookout for. I think the claim is like an estimated 20 million people are in the country illegally, and it looks like 1 million of them have self-deported under the Trump administration. So that's about like 5%. I mean, that is a good amount. That's a very big number. So maybe we'll see that number increase in the future. But it's definitely worth going over, worth following. The last source that we really went over, it was this happened last year, but it was 39 to 60 protesters killed in Kenya. So the protesters like raided like a government building, and the police just kind of started shooting, not with rubber bullets, with real bullets. A lot of people died, and we kind of talked about how like thankfully that doesn't happen in the United States. Like the police we saw in like the LA riots, we saw like rubber bullets being used, not real bullets. And I kind of also say like it goes to like the equipment that the police in the United States have. It also goes to like their training. They're not going to like freak out. And like the government here like actually cares about its people, and it functions better than like the example here is Kenya. And so it can like sustain a police force, and it can keep protests civil, and it like respects the protesters enough to like not massacre them. So you're welcome for that if you live in the United States. That's kind of like the point. If these protests, these No King's Day protests happened in Kenya, so many people would have died. It would have been ridiculous. That's the last source. If you want to see more episodes, just check out our YouTube channel. It's all the Pipeline Podcast episodes. This is episode 8. Every Wednesday at 4, we record these on Twitch. So join us there. You can kind of follow along, comment your own thoughts on the topics that we go over. And if you want to see more videos, definitely subscribe on YouTube. Right now, we've been covering Iran v. Israel a little bit. And then there's also a story that I want to do an update on, the Salt Lake City shooter, because it looks like he might actually not have been a shooter. He might have just been like a guy that showed up with his gun thinking he was going to protect the protesters, and he got mistaken for a shooter. We haven't really seen a lot of information come out yet. As soon as we get some like real information, we're definitely going to be covering that. So keep an eye out for an update on that hopefully will happen like sometime this week, whenever we get an update. Other than that, have a great day.